And we're heading to Tunisia now. The country's dairy sector could collapse, and that's due to a shortage of fodder and the soaring costs of farm inputs, putting them further out of reach of farmers. Now, the North African Nations Farming Union says that the price of cattle feed has risen by up to 40% in the last year due to the impact of the conflict in Ukraine, amongst other factors. Here's Adnan Shaushi with the details.
Ali Al-Manai is a dairy farmer in the agricultural region of Burj Al Amri, which is on the southwest of the capital, Tunis. After living in Italy for more than 2 decades, he returned to his hometown to raise dairy cows. Just like tens of thousands of members of the Farmers Union, Ali says the increase in fodder prices has led to higher production costs, and the situation has further been compounded by the lack of compensation by the state.
The dairy crisis is alarming. The state has 2 options: raising the tariffs of milk for dairy farmers or reducing fodder costs because we are losing money. Many farmers are selling their cows because they cannot cope with the higher production costs.
According to the president of the National Chamber of Milk Manufacturers in Tunisia, dairy shortages in the North African country will continue as long as the state does not intervene to save the sector by offering incentives to farmers and industrialists.
In May 2022, the Agriculture Minister announced a rise in the price of milk for farmers, but this never happened. We warned the authorities that the dairy sector could have avoided this crisis if the state had listened to all stakeholders. We're facing many difficulties to provide the local market with milk, while we used to export the surplus in 2021 and the first few months of 2022.
Since October, many shops in Tunisia have restricted milk purchases to 2 cartons per person as consumers scramble for limited supplies.
We are suffering trying to find a packet of milk in Tunis. Families with kids can't live without it.
Over the last decade, several companies have invested millions of dollars in modern factories across Tunisia to manufacture, package and market milk and its derivatives. Despite the daily challenges and the lack of state support, these companies continue to operate in order to provide the market with dairy products.
The consequences of this crisis are enormous on the dairy sector and on industrialists. Here, at the Central Dairy in Cap Bon, we are producing and functioning at 60% of our potential activity. 40% of our machines are stopped due to the milk shortage.
The Trade Department has revealed that Tunisia has exhausted its strategic and technical stocks of milk. According to the Tunisian Union of Agriculture and Fisheries, there are around 100,000 dairy farmers in the North African country, most of them on only 3 to 4 dairy cows. Analysts say the conflict in Ukraine and climate change have exacerbated the situation and deepened the crisis in the dairy sector. Farmers and industrialists alike are calling for state support to prevent the collapse of this vital sector and to safeguard food security in the country. Abdel Shabashi, CGTN, Tunis.